Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This episode is brought to you by SalesCred, the definitive book on sales credibility by our co-host, Seeley Smith. Sales credibility is the quality all salespeople must have in abundance before they can ever hope to earn trust and become a trusted advisor. And SalesCred reveals how salespeople build and lose credibility with the things you say and do every day. Pick up a copy October 8th, 2020 at Amazon.com or other fine online business booksellers. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts Seeley Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
We've done a lot of sponsorships lately since COVID hit, Lee. You know, when you've been a presenter and a speaker and a panelist in some of these remote conferences that everybody's trying to put on. And in some cases, they've worked really well. In some cases, not so much. And our guest today is an expert in this area of events and is going to help us out with some better ideas for the current situation.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the other thing, too, is that whether it be you as a manager, holding remote meetings, or whether it be maybe you're in sales and doing remote sales calls or marketing or whatever the case may be there, it's all things that we need to improve upon because, we're going to be doing this for a while. And also now that we know that we can do it and it's successful and allows us to be more productive, then it's like, we're going to be expected to do more of it. So, yeah, I'm really excited to hear what our guest has to say today.
I'm super excited too. So it is the Manage Smarter podcast, everyone. I'm Audrey Strong, Vice President of Communications at Sales Fuel.
And I'm Seeley Smith, the President and CEO of Sales Fuel.
All right, everybody. Jim McCarthy on deck today. He says that the number one mistake managers make right now is not pivoting with today's crisis. So you are on deck, Jim, to talk about events. Let me tell you a little bit about Jim. He started his career in the e-commerce business all the way back in 97, has almost 20 years experience in live events, has sold tens of millions of tickets to millions of people, co-founded TEDxBroadway, advises entrepreneurs, and also co-founded Goldstar Events and Stellar Tickets, stellartickets.com, everyone, and is the CEO of both companies. His current mission to enable artists and organizations to create high-quality online content and find success in the new era. This is great, Jim. I'm so glad you came to the table today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I tell you what, it's been forever since I've been to a concert or even to a bar with live music or a Broadway show or even a movie in a movie theater. It's like, do you want to talk about pivots? My goodness. I mean, it's like being in events, you've had to pivot hard.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Another way of putting it is our industry stopped existing on about March 13th.
Yeah. Right. So what is sort of for organizations that are putting on virtual conferences, what is the number one complaint or success that you're seeing that we can all learn from, like the biggest bucket that you're seeing?
I think the main thing that has to happen, the main mindset shift for anybody producing live events, whether they're concerts or even, as you say, conferences, theater, or whatever it is that it's really important at this moment to take the idea of an online event seriously, to put the quality into the production and to use the tool set that's actually going to enable you to do it well. And there's nothing worse than, let me just say that a different way. Live events, even if they're not beautifully produced, have the advantage of all that's great about being with other people and the fun and the natural buzz that you get from that. Online events don't have that. And so it's even more important that they're engineered to be good events, not only technically, but also in terms of the content and in every other way. So the main thing is people have to take online events seriously and treat them with quality, right? They have to deliver them with quality.
So, like when you're at like a big event, like a sporting event, like a playoff or something like that, and you feel there's an electricity in the air, it's like because you're standing shoulder to shoulder with other people. It's like, that aren't 6 feet away. And, you mentioned the term buzz, and it's just like, that's what I feel like is missing from online events, is that it's just there's no electricity, no excitement, the lack of energy is kind of what I sense from a lot of online events that I've been to.
Well, that's part of the challenge of that's part of the challenge of producing a good online event, is finding ways to add that back in. And it's also part of the challenge of the technologies that are being used. They need to find a way to instill that back in a way that can be done in an online format. So you're absolutely right. The excitement doesn't just naturally occur because people are there. You have to build it.
So how do you do that?
Well, it depends on what format you're talking about. But let's say you're talking about a business conversation, a conference, a webinar, that kind of thing. What I've learned in that area is that you absolutely, if you're the moderator or the producer, whatever the team is that's putting it on, they have to do more. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you're in a room, let's say you're giving you're having a conversation, like a mastermind conversation or something like that. A lot can be accomplished by just kind of glancing around the room. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can kind of connect with people's emotions and smile at people, or they're looking at each other or whatever. If you take that passive of an approach in an online setting with the same kind of thing, like a webinar, conference, that kind of thing, there's nothing there because nobody feels they're being glanced at. Nobody feels they're being connected to. So there's a much more active role that has to be played to draw people into it. So Lee, you were talking about a lack of energy in an online, I think you were talking about sort of an online conference. These things simply have to be more participatory by design. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can't allow people to be able to tune out just because, the structure doesn't demand that they do anything. It's got to be designed to be more engaged in that way. I think that's when it comes to conferences and webinars and things like that, the moderator must be more engaged, and the way it's designed has to involve people participating actively more.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can't shoot somebody like a knowing nod or there's none of that going on. And the other thing is that the body language is missing. That's and you can't make eye contact either. I think that's the other thing that so you're absolutely right. It's got to be participatory and I also kind of feel like, when you're at a live event or whatever, you could have a speaker on stage for an hour. My experience has been that's got to be about a half an hour when it's one of these virtual events. Yeah. I mean, it's like, what's your thinking on that?
I think you're absolutely right. I think 10 minutes is an eternity in that world. Yeah, I mean, we're doing TEDxBroadway this year virtually, and one of the things I realized was that one of the first steps we're going to take is we're going to shorten every talk. So normally we do a lot of talks that are 12, 14 minutes, that kind of thing, and we're going to make them more like 7 or 8 minutes this year, because normally they're on stage, and now it's going to be a video.
And that's very challenging for the speaker, because it's like, I can talk about 2 hours on best about any topic or whatever, but when you give me 15 minutes or 10 minutes, as I've had to do lately or something like that, that is freaking hard.
Well, you've heard the old expression. I think it's attributed to Mark Twain, but who knows who really said it. Whoever said it, it was great. They said, if I'd had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah. But Lee, when you were talking, like, for example, at the Selling Power conference that we had, did you feel disconnected, like you were just basically, for lack of a better term, just talking to a wall?
Well, one of the things that we did there was that the host, interjected. And so, and asked a question in the middle of the presentation. And, while it threw me off a little bit at first or whatever, it's like it also created, some level of engagement that was there. So it was more of a conversation that somebody was eavesdropping on, rather than, since they can't participate, at least they can do that. And whereas if I was just speaking for a half an hour or whatever, I'd do my best then to have polls and ask them to think about something or write something down or whatever. But it's not quite the same. So having that, making them more conversational, I think is another way that you can do that. What do you think?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But when you shift over from a conference or a webinar type setting to an entertainment setting, and you were talking, Lee, about how much you'd love to go to a concert right now or just see music in a bar, and other people love theater or whatever things are out there. It's different again. So one thing with that experience is that, Zoom, for example, is not designed to be fun,
And it's not.
Yeah, right. It's not.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. I don't think they designed it to be not fun, but it just wasn't the goal. It's not supposed to be fun. And so when people produce a show and put it in a format like Zoom, it really is fighting against the tool itself to make the event be what it wants to be, right? So if let's say you're watching a concert, or let's say you're watching a piece of theater, you want to sit back and see it on a good screen with great sound, and all the things that you would expect from an entertainment type thing. And so that's why we in part of the reason that we built Stellar is to facilitate entertainment shows that really are entertaining, that give people a way to actually deliver a great entertainment experience without too much difficulty.
What do you think the role of virtual reality is going to be in doing this sort of thing here in the near future?
You like virtual reality where you're like with the headset on?
Yeah.
I still think that's emerging. I think that we're some time away from that still. If you look at the experiences, they can be very engaging. Have you guys done a good virtual reality
I
experience?
have not.
I have,
would be freaked out,
Yeah.
I think. But what was it likely? And Jim, did you do it?
I've done a couple. There's a company called The Void that produces these. They're built into a location. And so what you're seeing actually sort of matches up with the environment that you're physically in as well, which is pretty cool. So they're pretty good, but they are really, really hard to deliver. So I think we're a ways off from that. The other thing is that the challenge of VR so far has been that it's a little bit, I don't know, people don't, it doesn't feel great right now. Like a lot of people are a little nauseous after they do a VR.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And the headgear too is just that's kind of weird. I was like, it's like, I already have to wear a mask, but now I'm going to throw that thing on top of me.
Yeah. I think that we're probably a little ways off from that right now.
I have a question because you're an expert in e-commerce as well. The conference that Lee did, they set it up where you would have one of our salespeople sitting in a virtual room, but on duty, paying attention. And during his speech, and then after, anybody who wanted to walk into that room or ping into that room and talk immediately with a CTA to a salesperson, she was there. Well, only 2 people came in. And I'm wondering, if there's a better way to do that to sort of get more sales and engagement on the sales side going on. What are your thoughts on that?
So as you saw it, what was the breakdown of that system?
I'll tell you what it is. The breakdown of the system is it's like you're trying to do a virtual event the same way you do a live event. So a live event it's like, okay, you've got an exhibitor room, and you've got people with their booths and the salespeople and everything like that. And you're trying to set up the same thing virtually, and it doesn't work.
That's exactly what I've been saying about online events in general. It reminds me when I was first in e-commerce back in the mid 90s, let's say, the first thing that everybody tried to do was replicate the real world shopping experience online. So I remember that there was a website, it was a collection of online stores, and I'm doing air quotes that you can't see.
Okay.
And the idea was, well, it's a bunch of stores. So that's a mall. And how do you get around a mall? Well, you walk through the mall. So the website was the overhead map of a mall, like you've seen, on the, in the mall, the directory. You had a little icon that you walked from store to store, right? Like that was the website. And the reason for that is exactly what you're saying, Lee, which is the impulse that a lot of people have when a new medium is born, when there's this new thing, the impulse they have is to kind of just duplicate the old thing onto the new thing. But then it doesn't take long when people start innovating for the true nature of that medium to be fully taken advantage of, right? And for people to do it in a way that's native to the new medium and that really makes sense for that new medium. So yeah, the idea of what did you say? There's an exhibitor room, and then there's what was the other thing? What's the place they lurk and wait for your business?
Yeah, they just sit there for and they're waiting in there, waiting for a ding, like something to pop up. And it was like 6 hours. They wanted them to sit there and just be there, just in case.
Yeah, it is a great example of taking the old and putting it into the new, instead of stopping and thinking, okay, what's the natural behavior in this medium for that? It may be that. It doesn't sound like it was, but the most important thing is whether you're doing it as in a conference format or an entertainment format or whatever. It's like, an online concert, for example, isn't just pointing a camera at the stage where the band is performing, right? It's more than that. It can be a lot more than that. The camera there can be, of course, there should be multiple cameras. The camera can follow the band from the dressing room through to the stage, for example. There's all kinds of things somebody could do, right, to make the experience truly sing inside the format of the online event versus what you'll get if you're sitting, 15 rows back from the.
Another example of that is when the iPhone was first created, more than 10 years ago. It's like you'll recall, like the note application looked like parchment paper, and the gameplay thing or whatever looked like the felt on a blackjack table, and it's like, and it was trying to make people, make a transition almost, but it's like they were trying to take the old world and apply it to this new world of a piece of glass. And it took maybe about, I don't remember exactly how many versions it took them for them to realize, people are used to tapping on glass now. People are, you understand that this is something different. We let's throw out all of the old metaphors and the graphic design that we use to make people make a connection between the two things, because they get it. They don't need that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But you're right. It took a little time. And the first instinct was to replicate the old medium onto the new medium. And it's not like you don't use anything from the old medium. You do, right? Probably quite a bit. But it's those. It's not so much that you don't use anything from the old medium. It's that you start with a blank screen, if you will. You start with a blank tablet and say, what's the right thing to do in this medium?
So what are some of the cool things that you're doing in the new medium, that you weren't doing, with live events?
Yeah, so we've changed our role. Essentially, as Goldstar, we were essentially a marketplace and a marketer of shows, thousands and thousands of shows on behalf of people at every venue, thousands of venues around the country. With Stellar, we realized that people not only needed help. They needed help to kind of get over the hump and cross the chasm into the world of actually producing live events. So, we built a tool set that integrates the ticketing with the streaming and with marketing and with a lot of other things that come together to be what we call a total show management system. And some of those things include tools that are designed to keep the audience engaged in a way that's true to being an online event. So, for example, the audio and video quality are just absolutely max, right? So you can go as high as 4K on our platform. We haven't really had anybody actually produce 4K video yet, but you can. And it's scalable to infinity. So you could have that. We thought very early on it was important to build out the apps for Apple TV and Roku and Fire Stick, so that people can have that sort of sit back experience and enjoy it. And actually, and that ties into another feature that is just being enhanced on a regular basis, which is the interaction. So we have a chat panel that people can add and reaction. So people can chat during the whole thing. You can actually sit there on your sofa watching the show on Apple TV and then chatting with other people in the show on your phone, for example, and have.
Which you really can't do in a live event because it's kind of frowned upon.
It is a bit frowned upon, and the thing is, the producers can decide to turn that feature on or off. But what's really funny is, I was at an online concert on Stellar a couple weeks ago, and I went into the live stream lobby about 45 minutes before the show, and this band had, I want to say, at least 50 or 100 people in the lobby 45 minutes earlier than the show, 45 minutes before the show, chatting like crazy. Like they were having this long conversation about the music and the guys in the band and all this stuff. And in addition to the chatting, there's also reactions. So you can clap, you can you can do the heart, you can do all these
Express
different
yourself.
things.
Yeah.
Put your hands up.
Yeah, which is pretty fun, right? So the artists can actually, if they set up a monitor, they can actually see people's reactions to what they're doing while, in near real time. And one thing that we've seen is that bands will actually, artists will monitor what the chat is, and they'll say, Johnny said, way to go, guys, or whatever, and they'll actually do a little chyron across the screen of what the comments people are making. So all of that really makes it feel like it's happening now, right? It really makes it feel important that you're there, and it brings a lot more fun to it.
Do VIPs get a backstage pass?
They can do that. Can be done. Yeah, that's
a good idea.
VIP experience is something that people are doing. Yeah. After the show's over, you go into a sort of second area, and there's a whole conversation that happens there.
Yeah, it's a post game. It's like you're talking about the show, what you saw, and what you liked, and what you loved, and all that.
Well, you're doing it right, Jim. And everybody, I encourage you to go to stellartickets.com. And also, Jim, for you coming today, we really appreciate it. I want to help you sell tickets with your TEDxBroadway show, everybody. It's November 17th at 1 p.m. It's virtual. And if you go to TEDxBroadway.com, you can get your tickets. So go get them. There you go.
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be great. Usually we do that. Obviously, it's a TEDx on Broadway. The secret is in the name, TEDx Broadway. And usually we do it at the New World Stages on 50th and 8th. And I always get a bagel in the morning from the place right around the corner.
Oh.
But obviously this year we're not doing any of that.
And get a slice and a Coke.
You miss your bagel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the only thing. But there's a lot. But it's still going to be great. We've got some great speakers lined up, and it's going to be a good event. It's going to deliver on what TEDx Broadway normally delivers on. So that's the main thing.
And I look forward to the time like when you're like working with like Philips Hue, for example, and you've got the ambient lighting,
Right.
going on at the same time. That would be freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many possibilities. And, I guess the other thing that I think is worth saying is that for the people in the live entertainment business, and I would include, conferences and things in this as well, this COVID has created a major opportunity here because the behavior shift, I don't think the behavior shift would have happened toward online events if it weren't for the COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it's creating an opportunity that will persist beyond the crisis. Like even when in-person returns, I think producers of shows and conferences and concerts and everything are going to realize this is a very profitable addition to the business model. And there are people who've been doing this for a while. I don't think in the future I think virtually all conferences will offer a virtual option as an option in the future, because why not? Right? Like you could be there in person or you could be there virtually. It won't probably cost as much to be there virtually, but a lot of people can do it. And I think it's just going to make a lot of sense and be a major, major supercharger to the business model of live events in the future.
I don't disagree. And if you guys are trying to figure out how to do your event right, JC McCarthy is Jim's LinkedIn. So reach out to him there. Jim, this has been a pleasure.
Can I add Goldstar Jim at Twitter? So that may be easy to remember. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks. All great ideas. And good luck with your event, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at salesfuel.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.